Donald Trump just received what could be considered the most crushing legal setback of his political career when the Supreme Court issued a 7-2 ruling that completely dismissed his appeal for presidential immunity. What makes this even more significant is that justices he personally appointed to the bench voted against him. The situation took an unexpected turn when Warren Buffett, who has maintained silence regarding Trump for years, released a public statement that's causing major ripples across both Wall Street and Washington. It's genuinely shocking that he made such comments publicly. This goes far beyond a single court decision. We're witnessing the complete collapse of Trump's comprehensive legal approach. What unfolds over the coming 3 days could very well decide whether he faces federal imprisonment. Let me break down what's been transpiring away from public view. Trump dedicated the past 2 years to constructing what his team described as an unbreakable legal defense. Ever since federal charges began emerging in 2023, he's attempted every possible legal maneuver: claims of executive privilege, arguments for presidential immunity, and even questioning whether the special counsel had legitimate authority. His attorneys, including individuals like Todd Blanche and Chris Key, established themselves as firm supporters of the notion that a president, particularly Trump, should remain completely protected from legal accountability. Whether the issues involved classified documents, January 6th, or election interference, Trump consistently maintained the same position: he was president, which in his view granted him immunity. But this is where reality sets in. We're currently 18 months deep into these federal prosecutions. Trump's legal proceedings continue to accumulate. His attorney fees have reached astronomical levels. We're discussing figures exceeding $100 million. His campaign has essentially transformed into a fund for covering legal expenses at this stage. This entire situation is developing because Trump and the justice system have reached an absolute impasse over one basic question: is it possible to prosecute a former president for conduct that occurred during their time in office? And who finds themselves positioned directly in the center of this controversy? That's right, the Supreme Court. The court is meant to operate independently from political influence. But here's the complicated part. Trump selected 3 out of the 9 justices: Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. He anticipated their allegiance. He believed they would protect him. And before continuing further, we need to acknowledge reality for a moment. The Supreme Court has previously demonstrated a willingness to rule favorably for Trump, as evidenced by certain prior decisions. However, granting immunity from all criminal prosecution represents an ask for them to essentially establish him as a monarch. Now, returning to the current situation, information emerging around October 28th demonstrated just how certain Trump felt about this appeal. He characterized any notion that his appointed justices might decide against him as fabricated news, and even stated that genuine justices comprehend presidential authority. Those are quite forceful words. Essentially, Trump was labeling any justice potentially ruling against him as someone betraying the Constitution, or at least his interpretation of it. And this wasn't a statement made behind closed doors. Trump ensured his expectations were expressed publicly, conducting rallies where he would remind attendees that he placed 3 justices on the court, clearly indicating he anticipated reciprocation. This public stance sent tremors through legal communities because it prompted numerous concerns. If Trump, the individual at the center of this, could exert such obvious pressure on the Supreme Court, what implications did that carry for the independence of our entire judicial framework? Now, this pattern isn't new. Trump's allegiance really only encompasses himself. Whenever individuals cease being beneficial or perform actions he disapproves of, he rapidly turns against them. We've observed this behavior repeatedly. Just consider how he turned on Jeff Sessions immediately after Sessions stepped away from the Russia investigation. Initially, Sessions was the greatest. Subsequently, he became disgustingly disloyal and mentally unfit. Then there was Bill Barr. Trump appreciated him while Barr provided protection. But once Barr acknowledged there wasn't widespread election fraud, Trump labeled him a weak and pathetic rhino who let down the American people. And we shouldn't overlook how he separated himself from Mike Pence when Pence declined to reverse the election on January 6th. 4 decades of loyalty became irrelevant. Trump literally directed a mob toward his own vice president. Even Kevin McCarthy experienced a comparable outcome when he initially criticized Trump following January 6th. Trump shifted from calling him my Kevin to threatening his political career's destruction. Now it appears Trump's own Supreme Court selections are facing scrutiny. This recurring pattern is becoming increasingly recognizable. You can demonstrate unlimited loyalty and support Trump continuously, but the instant you deviate from expectations or become less useful, he'll discard you without any hesitation. So, what action did the Supreme Court take to anger Trump? Well, it fundamentally relates to the Constitution. The case centered on whether Trump could assert absolute immunity for allegedly criminal actions committed while serving as president. Trump's attorneys wanted the court to determine that presidents are entirely beyond legal reach while holding office and cannot face prosecution even after departing.